Most people lose arguments before they even start talking. Think about it. How many times have you walked away from a discussion feeling angry, frustrated, or embarrassed? You get into your car or you're lying in bed 3 hours later and suddenly, boom, the perfect comeback pops into your head. You think, why didn't I say that earlier? That would have destroyed them. Does that sound familiar? I used to be exactly the same way. I would get crushed in debates. I would get emotional, I would stutter, and I would lose. But after studying thousands of interactions and analyzing how the most persuasive people in the world operate, I finally cracked the code. Here is the secret that nobody tells you. Winning an argument isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It isn't even about being right. It is about being practically and psychologically smarter than the person across from you. Today, I'm going to give you the blueprint. I'm ranking 6 battle-tested methods from worst to best. These are the same psychological triggers used by master negotiators, lawyers, and public speakers. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to control any conversation, stop an aggressor in their tracks, and get people to agree with you without them even realizing why. Let's get into it. Subscribe if you want to stop reacting and start winning conversations. Method 1. The agreement trick. Now, this is going to sound completely backward. When someone attacks your idea or insults your intelligence, what is your natural instinct? You want to fight back. You want to yell, defend yourself, and prove them wrong immediately. But here's the truth. If you fight back immediately, you lose. You create a wall between you and the other person. Method 1 is like a Judo move. In martial arts, if someone runs at you with full speed, you don't try to stop them by standing still. You'll get knocked over. Instead, you pull them in the direction they are already going. You use their own momentum to flip them over. So, how do you do this in a conversation? When someone attacks your argument, do not get defensive. Instead, find a small part of their statement that is true and agree with it. Let me give you a real-life example. Let's say you are at work and a coworker says, "Your project idea is stupid. It's going to cost the company way too much money." A normal person, an amateur, would say, "It's not stupid. You don't understand the value. You're wrong." Now you're in a fight. Nobody is listening. But a master uses the agreement trick. You look them in the eye and say, "You know what? You make a really fair point about the budget. It is an expensive investment. You're right to be worried about the cost. However, I've calculated the returns, and that's where the numbers get interesting." Did you see what just happened there? First, you confused their brain. They were ready for a fight. They had their adrenaline pumping, but you didn't fight back. You agreed with them. They literally don't know how to fight someone who is agreeing with them. Second, you lowered their defenses. By admitting they are partly right, you look reasonable, you look confident. You're telling them, "I am listening to you." Once they feel heard, they are much more likely to shut up and listen to your counterpoint. Use this method to start the conversation. It stops the shouting match and turns it into a discussion where you are in control. Method 2. The question trap. This next technique comes from one of the smartest men in ancient history, Socrates. It's called the question trap. Socrates was famous for never telling people they were wrong. He knew that people have big egos. If you tell someone you are wrong, their brain goes into defense mode. They will dig their heels in and refuse to change their mind, even if they know they are wrong. So, instead of making statements, you ask questions. But not just any questions. You ask questions that guide them into a trap where they have to admit you are right. Let's look at a scenario. Imagine you are arguing with a friend who believes that anyone with good grades will automatically be rich and successful. If you use the amateur approach, you say, "That isn't true. I know plenty of smart people who are broke. Grades don't matter that much." That is just your opinion against theirs. It goes nowhere. Now, let's use the question trap. You stay calm and say, "That's an interesting view. So do you believe that high grades are the only thing that employers look for?" They have to say, "Well, no, not the only thing." Then you ask, "Right. So don't you think social skills and work ethic matter too?" They say, "Yeah, of course those are important." Then you drop the final question. So is it possible for someone to have straight A's but bad social skills and struggle to get a job? They have to answer, I suppose so. Boom, you won. Notice that you never attacked them, you never called them stupid, you just asked innocent questions. But by answering your questions, they dismantled their own argument. This is the most powerful form of persuasion, because when someone convinces themselves, the belief sticks. You become the helpful person asking questions, not the enemy they need to defeat. Method 3. Magic word swaps. This method is all about vocabulary. I call this magic word swaps. The words you choose can make or break your argument. Small changes create massive differences in how people react to you. Most people use accusing language without realizing it, which starts fights instantly. There are 3 major swaps you need to make today. First, stop starting sentences with the word you. Never say you are wrong. Never say you are being ridiculous. When you start a sentence with you, it sounds like an attack. It points a finger. It makes people angry. Instead, swap you for I. Don't say you aren't making any sense. Say, I feel a little confused by this logic. By shifting to I, you make it about your feelings or your understanding. It is impossible for someone to argue with how you feel. It de-escalates the tension immediately and makes you look like the mature one. The second swap is using what I call authority words. If you want people to agree with you without thinking, use words that imply everyone already agrees. I'm talking about words like obviously, clearly, and naturally. Don't say, I think saving money is a good idea. That sounds weak. Say, obviously, we all know that saving money is the smart move here. When you say obviously, you make your point sound like common sense. If the other person wants to disagree with you, they have to argue against common sense, which makes them feel foolish. The third swap is the yes trap. You want to ask questions that only have one answer. Wouldn't you agree that the safety of our family is the most important thing? They have to say yes. Once you get them nodding their head yes to small things, they are psychologically conditioned to say yes to your bigger points later. And here's a bonus tip for this method. Give them intense eye contact when you do this. It shows you're serious. Method 4. The information bomb. Sometimes being nice doesn't work. Sometimes you're dealing with a bully, a know-it-all, or someone who is trying to steamroll you. This is when you use method 4, the information bomb. The goal here is simple. Overwhelm them. You want to hit them with so much data, so many facts, and so much detail that their brain literally cannot process it all. You see, the human brain has a limit. It can only process a certain amount of information at once. When you overload it, the brain shuts down. It goes into a state called cognitive overload. When this happens, the person feels outgunned. They assume you must be right because you clearly know so much more than they do. Here is how you execute this. Let's say someone challenges you on a business decision. They say, I don't think this marketing plan will work. You don't just say, yes, it will. You drop the bomb. You say, I understand your concern, but have you looked at the Q3 data? We have a 23% failure rate with the old model, and the current market projections from the expert panel show a 15% shift in consumer behavior. Plus, if you look at the competitor analysis from last month and compare it with our long-term yield projections, the risk is actually minimal. Did you read the report on demographic shifts? Watch their face when you do this. They will look blank. They are trying to process Q3 data, 23% failure, market projections, and demographic shifts all at the same time. They can't do it. They will likely stutter and say, well, I haven't seen all those specific numbers, but that is the sound of you winning. You established yourself as the expert. And the secret is, you don't need to be a genius. You just need to be prepared. Before a big discussion, memorize 3 or 4 specific statistics. You don't need to know everything in the world. You just need to know more than the person you are arguing with. Method 5, the magic number 3. Now let's talk about structure. This is method 5, the magic number 3. There is something strange and beautiful about the human brain. We love the number 3. If you give one reason for your argument, it feels weak. It feels like an opinion. If you give 2 reasons, it feels like you are missing something. But 3 reasons, 3 feels complete. 3 feels like a pattern. 3 feels like the absolute truth. Politicians, marketers, and public speakers use this all the time. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Blood, sweat, and tears. Reduce, reuse, recycle. In an argument, using the rule of 3 makes you sound incredibly organized and professional. It makes it look like you have thought this through completely, even if you just came up with it on the spot. So how do you use it? Always structure your argument in 3 parts. If you are disagreeing, say this: I have to disagree with this plan for 3 reasons. First, it is too expensive. Second, we don't have the staff to support it. And third, the timing is wrong for the market. If you are trying to persuade someone, say this: if we do this, we will see 3 major benefits. We will save time, we will reduce stress, and we will double our profit. Why is this better than method 1 or 2? Because most people in an argument ramble. They talk in circles. They give one reason, then tell a story, then get angry, then give another reason. It is messy. When you use the magic number 3, you bring structure to the chaos. Even if your opponent is yelling and getting emotional, you sound calm, logical, and composed. You become the adult in the room. Method 6, the conversation killer. We have arrived at the top spot. This is the most dangerous and effective method on the list. This is not for a friendly debate. This is when you need to shut someone down completely. Method 6 is the conversation killer. This relies on one perfectly timed, short, punchy line that exposes the other person's foolishness or hypocrisy. It doesn't just win the argument, it ends it. But here's the secret: timing is everything. You cannot use this at the start of an argument. You must wait. Let the other person talk. Let them get emotional. Let them ramble. Wait for them to say something that doesn't make sense, or wait for them to contradict themselves. Then you strike. Here are 3 examples of conversation killers that leave people speechless. First, the hypocrisy check. If someone is giving you advice on how to live your life, but their life is a mess, you wait for them to finish and say, "That is interesting advice coming from someone who has never actually done this themselves." Second, the confidence check. If someone is ranting about a topic they clearly know nothing about, you say, "I honestly love how confident you sound about something you learned 5 minutes ago." Third, the reality check. If someone is criticizing your method or your work, you ask, "If your strategy is so much better, why aren't you using it?" Now, pay attention, because this is the most important part. You must deliver these lines calmly. Do not yell. If you yell, you look mean. If you say it calmly, with a smile, you look smart. The goal is to point out the obvious flaw in their logic so clearly that everyone in the room sees it. When you nail this technique, there is silence. They have nothing left to say, because you have exposed the foundation of their argument as weak. So, those are the 6 methods. You have the agreement trick to disarm them, the question trap to lead them, magic word swaps to persuade them, the information bomb to overwhelm them, the magic number 3 to structure your thoughts, and the conversation killer to end the game. But here's what separates the pros from the amateurs. Don't just use one method, combine them. Imagine you're in a meeting. Start with the agreement trick to lower their guard. Then use the magic number 3 to make your points sound complete. If they keep pushing, drop the information bomb. And if they get rude, use the conversation killer. Arguments are not about being the loudest voice. They are about emotional control and tactical intelligence. If you view an argument as a battle of egos, you will lose. If you view it as a game of chess, you will win every time. But knowing these techniques isn't enough. You have to practice them. Pick one method and try it in your next conversation. Start small. Get comfortable with it. If this helped you understand how to win, smash that like button and subscribe, because I have way more advanced psychological tricks coming your way. Now go out there and win.